My name is Jamie, and Christmas is no doubt my favorite holiday, the best time of the year. But this story kind of ruined the experience for me. A few days before Christmas last year, my friends and I went to a Christmas-themed festival that had all the beautiful bright lights and attractions filled with good energy and joy. And every corner you turn, there was another picture being taken with families and their children, or even couples. The three of us are teenagers, and we had the most fun ice skating and just joking around. There was also a long path you could walk down with a variety of Christmas games and activities to do. My friends and I were walking down the path, and we saw a donation letter box for an organization that was designed for people to write Christmas letters to foster kids who do not have a home or family to spend their Christmas with. The employee that was running it stopped us along the trail and asked us if we can sign letters for kids who didn't have families to spend Christmas with. And we all gave each other the look, as if we would have felt guilty for saying no to doing it. So we took a few minutes to write some kind words on the letter and turn it into the box. I think I just wrote something simple like Happy New Year's and used a short quote. It had started to get late, and after some time went by, we all decided to go home for the night. Cam, who was one of the friends I was with, decided to spend the night at my place, while my other friend went home. But at around 11 p.m., we were just chilling on our phones and whatnot, until we heard multiple rings at the doorbell. Both my parents and sister were at my grandma's at the time, and wouldn't be home until the morning, so I knew it wasn't them. I could tell Cam was a little worried about the excessive ringing, but I decided to run downstairs and check on her anyway. Our town was relatively quiet and usually pretty safe. I peeped through the door hole and even went to the side to look out the window, and there was no one. I finally opened the door and saw a letter on the ground held down by a rock. I picked it up in the dark, snowy night, and it was Cam's letter from the festival. My heart sank and I immediately closed the door and ran upstairs to go and show Cam. I angrily asked him if he put my address on the letter or any other information, and he said no. But that wasn't it. Right under where he had wrote his writing, there was someone else's writing that said, I see you. We were both scared shitless, as the box was filled with hundreds of letters, and there was no way someone else was able to grab out the box like that. We barely slept that night, if at all, and were awake pretty much until my parents arrived home. Probably not the smartest decision, but we decided not to call 911 or tell my parents. I texted my other friend to make sure it wasn't some type of prank, and he swore it wasn't, and he seemed just as surprised as we were. It appeared that not only was someone watching us at the festival, but we were also being followed home the whole time. The next day, I decided to look up this organization on Google, and no type of business or anything popped up, as it was just a made-up name or something. Maybe that guy was far from just an employee working at the festival, but none of it really makes any sense. On December 23rd, I had a dream. This dream wasn't like any other. It stuck with me. Most people forget their dreams, but I vividly remember feeling some type of way about it after. Basically, what happened in the dream was, I was sitting with my sister sitting in the kitchen table, who was 12 at the time. She was about to eat an Oreo that was dipped into her milk. I remember telling her not to eat the cookie and insisting that it was not a good idea. I had no reason or context for saying this. I remember she looked at me with a bit of confusion, and I don't really remember if she actually ate the Oreo or not. It was just a casual, strange dream that everybody else has. I didn't think much of it. I just went on with my day per usual. But on Christmas night around 9 p.m., my family and I had just wrapped up making our Christmas cookies, and this is something we usually do not do, but we had to give it a try this year. After baking and decorating the Christmas cookies with my mom, my sister and I went away at our cookies, and they were actually very good. And then, maybe after the second cookie, my sister began to cough a little, until there was a slow build-up, and she was no longer coughing, but severely choking. My mom immediately took notice and was hoping that it would go away after a few coughs, and encouraging her to do so. She then yelled at me to go get water, and I immediately rushed to the sink to go grab some. I could hear my mom's voice slowly get higher pitched and freaking out. When I got back, my mom was assisting her with a few thrusts to try and help. And when I finally gave the water to my sister, her eyes were red, bloodshot red. However, it hit me when I remembered the dream that I had just 2 days ago. In the dream, I told my sister not to eat the cookie, almost as if I was foreshadowing the whole situation. I had never experienced this weird deja vu, or whatever you want to call it. I've never really been a paranormal or spiritual person, but the whole thing really creeps me out, to the way I remember the dream for no seemingly good reason, almost as if I was supposed to protect my sister from that happening to her. My name is Liam, and I'm a single child. The story takes place on Christmas Eve when I was 8 years old. I tried my best to sleep through the night and resist my urge to open Christmas gifts. But that night, I woke up in the middle of the night with the power completely shut off and what seemed like a power outage. My mom was standing beside the bed, looking very anxious. I woke up from a text from my dad saying, "Do not leave the room and lock your door." My dad had to work Christmas Eve and was finishing up his shift for the holidays, but my mom had called him to tell him about what was happening. I remember being half awake, and feelings of a mixture of frightening and confusion filled my body, as I know my mother would never just be in the room like that without waking me up, especially at 2 in the morning. I asked my mom, "What's wrong?" And she said that, "Liam, someone may have broken into our home, and you need to stay quiet." She also stated that she called the police prior to waking me up. I could see the terror in my mom's eyes, and I knew she was just trying her best to remain calm for me. At this point, we have no clue where the intruder is or what exactly is going on. Not long after I was awake, my mom and I began to hear deep breathing coming from outside the door. This was then followed by a very light knock. She pointed her finger over her mouth, desperately signaling me to stay quiet. But my mom built up the courage to say, "Get out of my house, and the cops are already on the way." A few seconds of silence went by, and there was no response, except for an indescribable laugh that I cannot explain. Just downright creepy. I'm pretty sure it sounded like an older man. I really believed I was going to die. Nothing else happened after except silence, but my heart was pounding until the cops showed up. They inspected the house, and we did see that our furniture was moved around. But weirdly, no gifts were actually stolen from the Christmas tree. Cops couldn't really do much, but they did patrol the area for the rest of the morning. When asked to identify the man, sadly, we couldn't. My mom and I didn't see anyone, and my dad just got home a few minutes after the cops had showed up. The scariest part is we're unsure how the intruder got in because both doors were locked, and there was no sign of damage to the windows. But the biggest assumption is that they got in from the window because one of them was unlocked. Luckily, and very fortunately, my mom was awake when this happened and heard tampering on the door downstairs, and an immediate red flag went off, so she ran into my room to hide with me. To this day, this experience is so strange to me because why wouldn't he have stolen any presents? And it's hard to grasp what his true intentions were. Every single Christmas, I wonder what exactly happened that day, and even now, that laugh that I heard outside of my door haunts me. If it weren't for my mom who heard the tampering at the door, this could have been a way more tragic story.